Hey everyone, how you doing? As Christians, we need to have confidence that this book can be defended. Um, we live in a very post-Christian world now, and the education system, and I mean the Bible's under attack all over the place. Um, just look what's going on now with the riots. Liberals, they're also destroying Christian things and harassing Christians, uh, churches, and things like that. And we really need to engage in giving a defense for the Christian faith. We have to really keep in mind and remember when engaging anyone, um, secularists, Darwinianists, that Colossians chapter 1, verses 16 to 17, uh, speaking about Jesus, it says, "For in him all things were created, things in the heavens and things in the heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things hold together." This same God who created everything has given his word to us. And in his word, he commands Christians to give a defense for his word. We can do that. We have been given God's revelation, and God has made us logical thinking creatures, and we have the ability to defend his word. We have to have that confidence. There's great books that can help you engage in apologetics, and presuppositionalism is the most biblical way to do apologetics. There's great books by Greg Bonson. His book's Always Ready, and there's Against All Opposition, defending the Christian worldview. Dr. Jason Lisle, Ultimate Proof of Creation. There's a lot of good stuff out there that we can that is biblically based, teaching us how to give a defense for God's word. We need to expose people's self-contradictions in what they believe. For instance, to say truth can't be known is self-defeating because that very statement claims to be a known absolute truth. To say all truth is relative, you should ask, is that a relative truth? Or when people say there are no absolutes, there are no truthful absolutes, um, so you should ask, are you absolutely sure? Or when people say it's true for you, but it's not true for me, ask, is that statement true just for you, or is it true for everyone? We need to utilize the law of non-contradiction when people say these assertions, and it's just truly amazing the hypocrisy of certain people's worldviews. Now, imagine if you were able to actually go back in time. If you could actually go back in time to the days when, unfortunately, the Supreme Court ruled that at one point in time that black people were not human beings, and people owned slaves, and you were trying to convince slave owners that black people are human beings. Imagine what that would be like. Well, it's kind of the same way today when liberals who want to deny that a baby in the womb is a human life. Both groups use the same stupid logic. I said this many times. I don't see too much difference between a 1940s Nazi and a modern day Democrat. the intentions are different, but the sins are the same. And what they're doing now with critical race theory and all this stupidity, they change meanings of words to control the narrative because they don't really have any kind of meaningful defense for their position on a moral level. They like to attack the Bible. They like to attack God's morality. But if you want to really call them out on their inconsistency, in an atheist worldview, there are no moral absolutes. In an atheist worldview, we're just chemicals reacting to chemicals. So, like Richard Dawkins said, Dr. Dawkins, he said there is no good or evil. So they have to borrow from the biblical worldview in order to attack it because they have no basis for attacking it being consistent with their own worldview because there are no moral absolutes. I mean, I can say from a biblical worldview that it's wrong to kill people, rape people, molest kids. All of that is evil. The Holocaust was evil. If you're a real good, consistent atheist, you really have no moral basis to say that the Holocaust was evil or any of those things are evil for that matter. We have to call people out on their inconsistencies in their worldviews. Now, this is really important. Now, people, regardless what they say, people have authorities, why they believe what they believe, but they try to call out Christians for making the Bible their authority. Dr. Greg Bonson points out that when a non-believer says you can't make the Bible your authority, you can reply and say, yeah, I can, just like you are trying to make logic your ultimate authority and still try to be logical. In ultimate questions, circular arguments are necessary. For example, the use of reason is used to prove the reality of reason, and logic is used to prove the constancy of logic. If someone says, this is my ultimate authority, and you say, how can you prove it? And if the person says, I'll prove it by appealing to this over here, then the first claim of the person's ultimate authority really wasn't their ultimate authority. We have to keep in mind people's the inconsistencies of someone else's position when we're engaging in apologetics. The other day I just posted the famous debate with Dr. Greg Bonson and Gordon Stein, Does God Exist? It's considered to be one of the, I would say it was probably one, as far as the Christian atheist debate scene, it's probably considered to be the best victory that the Christian side had over on the atheist side. But we have to keep in mind that, and I think it's a very powerful thing when we bring it to people's attention, what God's word says in Romans 1, the reason why people reject the gospel. Because that gets really right down to the very heart of it. And why people reject the gospel is, God's word tells us, it's because people love their sin. And so they want to suppress the truth of God. So that's why that there's a bias. People have presuppositions. They want to, they're not willing to change. They don't, when you engage with atheists and debate, these aren't people that desire to really know truth. They want to suppress God's truth and fill it with something else, with something that makes them comfortable, so they can continue to live in the sins that they engage in. So I think one of the greatest defenses for the Christian faith is to bring that up to your opponent. Because, like I said before, there are scientists on both sides, creationists and atheist Darwinian evolutionists. There are credentialed scientists on both sides that have both graduated from accredited non-religious universities. We all have the same evidences, but we all interpret the evidences. We all interpret the evidences in light of our worldviews, in light of our presuppositions, and we all have presuppositions. So, wanted to just make this a quick video because that's, I think, a good amount of stuff to think about.